So again, I don't want to interrupt you. Go back. So they're waging war against their own nouveau riche, against their own new rich.
Right. Exactly. And so we're going to see those thousands of new rich people taken down and humbled. You could use that word. They're going to be humbled. And it's part of a solidification of power by the Illuminati. They're wanting to take the American dollar down anyway because they're wanting to break America. Americans have too much freedom. We have too much mobility, and we have too much wealth. And all that translates into Americans are able to make decisions for themselves. They're able to travel places on their own. And this is just unacceptable. It's
hold on. You just hit the nail at the core. The TSA, the federal police force, it's all about domestic checkpoints, training the general law-abiding public that you're a criminal, we're putting our hands on you, we're searching you, no more Fourth Amendment. But it's always been the ultra-rich waging war on the middle class who are independent and don't want to be slaves. So you're absolutely hitting the core here, Fritz. My mission, I think, is to reach the middle class and to tell them, hey, organize against this. I mean, do you see any hope in resisting these people?
Well, you're directing your message to a good class of people. What a lot of people don't realize is if you go back and study history, revolutions came out of the middle class. Yeah. People that are in a survival mode, they're not thinking about fighting. They're thinking about where their next meal is going to come from. The American Revolution was created by a middle class. That was the leadership was upper and middle class, and so you're making a very wise decision there in trying to target people that have the means and a little bit of free time to actually constructively do something.
Yeah, no, that's who I've always felt called to go to people, because I think of nothing of myself. I know there are people who are greater men than I. They need to stand up, I mean, not be run over. And if I can break them out of their trance and point this out, they will become engines against this tyranny. And because I historically see the programmers, the globalists, the social engineers, we call the Illuminati, are always waging war against that independent free class because that's their threat.
Right. And don't discount anybody anywhere. I mean, you know.
No, I'm not discounting anybody. There's native talent everywhere. I just see the elite waging war on the middle class. Why is that?
They want to eliminate the middle class. The middle class is targeted for extinction. There's certain groups that seem to be, not seem, they just flat are targeted for elimination. The middle class is targeted for elimination. The blacks in Africa are targeted for elimination in Central Africa. The multinational corporations would like to have a lot more control and free reign in Central Africa, which has a lot of wealth.
By the way, it came out in Uganda a month ago, even in the New York Times, and in Honduras, the UN and World Bank line people up and just shoot them, and the liberals are like, it's for the earth, murder everyone. I mean, there's almost like a craziness now where things before that would be scandalous, that would have been incredible, are now just, no big deal.
You're right. I was listening as I was driving around town today to the radio, and having been gone for a while, is nice from one vantage point because I can see some of the ships. And I notice that they have created this gladiatorial thinking within the public, bloodlust. Oh, now we're going to have this opponent against this, and they're going to duel, and they're going to have a fight to the finish. you know, you had some of it before, but it's definitely intensified.
Well, it's the sale of torture is cool, and secret arrest is cool, and police state is cool. No, it's not cool to see us being turned into animals.
Right.
Fritz, I've got so many questions for you. You know, they're talking about this new war with Iran. All this is happening. I want to get into that with you, but at the very highest, ultimate, paramount level of the Illuminati, I know you don't. Who is in command of it? Is it the Rothschilds, the British Transylvanian bloodline? I mean, who is at the very top? And because David Icke today was commending you when he was on with us, saying you're right on target. I mean, who are these people? What is their goal?
Well, the Illuminati has different areas of control. The Rothschilds are in charge of the finances, but some of the other bloodlines are in charge of the rituals, like the Collins are very powerful in the rituals. So the power has been split up and diversified. You can see a parallel in nowadays. For instance, let's say you go into court. The judge is taking the recommendation of somebody else. So he's able to say, well, I'm not guilty of this decision. I just followed the recommendation of blah, blah. And then the people that made the recommendation or Child Services Division or whoever, they're saying, well, we're not responsible. The judge made the decision. It's sort of like another analogy is you have a bomber and it drops bombs, but everybody along the way can deny responsibility. Same way with the Illuminati. The power is diversified, and the way things are accomplished is split up. And so there's
Let me stop you again. Fritz, you were so profound. Because when I've studied this, that's what they do. Like with the actuaries and the insurance and the derivatives, they always share the responsibility but limit it to where no one can figure out where the power comes from, so there's no one to blame for what they do. I mean, it's so devilish, and it's always a tropism, like a plant growing towards the sun. It's a certain system they build where you can never pinpoint the heart of it. I mean, is that what you're getting at?
Exactly. In fact, this reaction to me being on your program follows that whole scenario. It's kind of involved, and it's not something I can discuss, but it's been interesting to see that there was such a quick reaction.
All right, continuing, you were getting into how they always insurance off the blame. They always shadow who's in charge to where you can never get to the enemy.
Right, and each of the individuals involved in carrying out something can pass the buck mentally and say, well, I'm not responsible for this. I was only doing this. You know, I was only the mechanic that repaired the bomber. I was just following orders when I pushed the bomb bay to release the bombs. You know, I was only the navigator. It was somebody else that pushed the buttons that released the bomb. And so down the line, even with the Illuminati kingpins, even they have a lot of deniability, because they can say, well, I'm just following what was planned by previous generations. I'm just working with these other families. I'm just honoring the family's commitment. You know, the circle, they call their family, or they refer to their family as the family or the circle. Don't break the circle. They've got all these little ways of keeping themselves committed to the plan. And that's it. They're following a plan, you know. They're following orders, even the guys at the top. And I don't want to paint a picture that these guys at the top are just pure evil, because life's more complicated than that. And you'll see some of these leading Illuminati kingpins, they're the philanthropists of the world. They're the ones that are doing great deeds. They do greater deeds than I'll ever do.
Well, no, the Illuminati talks about this balance. They create war, but they create peace. They're like trying to occupy the universal sphere.
Exactly. They're Gnostics. They want their good deeds to be balanced by their bad deeds, and the bad deeds to be balanced by their good deeds. This balance. And so you're going to continue to see this dynamic, this Hegelian philosophy and all of this Gnostic balancing. You're going to continue to see that. You know, we've seen some advancements, and we're going to continue to see some advancements in science and in other areas, medical and communication advancements.
Well, I was about to add, I have been through channels threatened over the years by certain groups, but other powerful groups have reached out and said, you know, off record, you're only allowed to operate because you bring balance. So they see it almost like I'm a manifestation of something, you're a manifestation of something. You particularly went after certain groups, they put you in prison, but that's how their whole worldview basically works.
Correct. Exactly. And on my 9/11 talk, which you were generous and made available to the public, I talked about the caduceus. It's a symbol of health, but it's representative of that balancing that they try to.
Well, let's start over. I'm going to shut up and give you the floor. Go into 9/11 symbolism, Fritz. I'm going to shut up and give you 10 minutes, unabated, break down 9/11 and the Twin Towers, the whole twin columns, the whole thing. You've got the floor.
It's obvious that the targets that were picked for the 9/11 attack were iconic. They were meant to evoke certain things from people. And just getting right to the point, towers have, in the psyche of humans for thousands of years, represented security. And so an attack on the World Trade Center towers was an attack upon the security of the United States. What it did was, on a subconscious level, is make people feel insecure, that we can't protect ourselves, that we're vulnerable.
And 9/11's the number for security. That's when it happened. Please continue.
Yes. There you go, that dichotomy again, you know. And you'll see that in the mind control. Like everything false is real, you know. I mean, it's this.
Yeah. I'm interrupting again. Seriously, you got the floor. I'm not going to interrupt again. Just start over. Get into 9/11.
You're welcome to. I love your comments, and I can see why over the years you have built up so many fans and so many listeners. And you make it fun for people. And it should be. It should be interesting and fun for people. 9/11 has a tremendous amount of symbolism. 11 has a tremendous amount of symbolism. 11 stands for towers, and towers come into Illuminati symbology in a lot of ways. And they tie back in with, for instance, the Habsburgs. One thing I pointed out in the 9/11 talk was that even our dollar sign has the twin towers of the Habsburgs in it. People don't realize, why are there two lines? It's because those were Habsburg towers, and those symbols then got onto the Spanish dollar, and then the Americans adopted it from the Spanish. So it has a long history.